What if the most dangerous man in history never shouted, never raged, and never sought revenge yet, walked away from every battle undefeated? Imagine this. You're standing in the middle of a storm. People insult you. Life slaps you across the face. Chaos explodes around you. But you don't flinch. You don't break. You move with calm certainty, like a mountain unmoved by wind. Have you ever truly wondered what that level of internal power feels like? Not the kind that swings a sword, but the kind that silences a room, ends conflict before it begins, and terrifies enemies not because of what you do, but because of what you refuse to do. The secret to that power? It lies not in becoming someone else, but in killing something inside. You, the ego, the anger, the need to react. And no one understood this better than Miyamoto Musashi. There's a demon that lives in you, not the kind from legends or fantasy, not a red-skinned monster with claws or horns. This one is far more dangerous because it wears your face. It speaks in your voice. It knows your pain, your memories, your wounds, and you feed it every time you explode with rage, every time you seek revenge, every time you let someone control how you feel with just a glance or a word. That demon is anger. It disguises itself as power, as strength, as standing your ground. But in truth, it's a chain, a leash, and every time you react, you tighten it around your own neck. That burning heat in your chest, the tightening of your fists, the need to prove something when someone disrespects you, that's not strength. That's a weakness parading in armor. You might think you're in control, but you're just a puppet, a pawn on someone else's board. Every time you lash out, you show your opponent exactly where your buttons are. You show them your code, your script, your pattern. Musashi saw through that illusion early in life. He understood that if someone can make you angry, they own you. They don't even have to lift a finger. All they have to do is say the right thing, and you'll destroy yourself. So he chose a different path. He chose to cut the strings. He didn't just train with the sword, he trained with silence. He cultivated stillness, like a warrior sharpened steel. Every duel he fought, he walked into with the calmness of a monk, not because he didn't feel emotion, but because he refused to be ruled by it. That made him not just dangerous, but nearly invincible. Let's go back to one of his earliest duels, a battle that shaped the foundation of his philosophy. Musashi was barely out of his teenage years when he challenged a renowned swordsman named Arima Kihei. Arima was formal, skilled, and deadly. He expected a fight between two men wielding swords, but Musashi showed up late, disheveled, and instead of a polished katana, he carried a crude wooden stick. Arima laughed. He mocked. He tried to provoke the young warrior into breaking character, into defending his honor. But Musashi said nothing. No outrage, no defensive speeches, just eyes like cold steel. And when the time was right, struck. One move, one hit, no flourish, no emotion. Arima was dead before he even understood what had happened. That was the day Musashi killed more than a man. That was the day he killed anger. You see, Musashi didn't fight with fury. He fought with awareness. And that awareness wasn't just about his opponent. It was about himself. He had studied the nature of emotion the way most men study war. He realized something most people never do, that anger is almost always useless. It blinds you, weakens your decisions, turns sharp minds into dull blades. He once wrote, "Do nothing which is of no use. Rage, almost always useless. You think it helps you win arguments? It just tells the other person you're hurt. You think it helps you dominate conflict? It shows the enemy exactly how to beat you by triggering your pain." The mind, Musashi believed, was like a blade. If you let it corrode with unchecked emotion, it becomes soft, fragile, erratic. But if you polish it with discipline, sharpen it with silence, temper it in solitude, it becomes unstoppable. He chose that path not once, but every single day. He slept outside, in dirt, in cold. He fasted. He rejected fame and riches. He stripped himself of everything soft, not because he wanted to suffer, but because he knew that comfort breeds attachment, and attachment breeds weakness. He understood what so many people still don't. Most of your anger isn't about others. It's about your illusion of control. You're angry because someone didn't treat you how you expected, because life wasn't fair, because someone cut in line, or disrespected you, or spoke behind your back. But who told you any of that was yours to control? After the duel with Kojiro, Musashi didn't bask in glory. He didn't celebrate. He didn't declare himself the greatest. He simply walked away. That's the most Musashi thing imaginable: silent victory, without the need for applause. While others would have immortalized the moment in poetry or erected monuments to their triumph, Musashi vanished into the mist of history, like a shadow that never asked to be seen. And that tells you everything about his mindset, because he didn't fight for fame. He didn't live for legacy. He fought to master himself. This philosophy can still save people today. We live in an age where people broadcast their emotions in real time. Every slight is shared online. Every insult becomes a caption. We've become emotionally naked in a world filled with predators. And in that world, Musashi's mindset is more necessary than ever. It's not about suppressing your emotions, it's about transforming your relationship with them. Musashi didn't feel less. He simply refused to let feelings dictate his direction. He became the kind of man who, when insulted, didn't flinch. When tested, didn't boast. When pushed, didn't push back unless absolutely necessary. He embodied restraint not as weakness but as refined strength. He lived according to what many now call the void, a state of inner emptiness, not in the hollow sense, but in the Buddhist sense. Detachment, freedom, stillness. When you operate from the void, you don't react, you respond. You don't fight everything, you fight only when it's necessary. You don't take things personal because there's no personal pride left to defend. The void is not apathy, it's clarity. And clarity, in a world ruled by ego and chaos, is the sharpest weapon of all. Musashi knew that ego was the source of most suffering, and that's just as true now as it was 400 years ago. You're not angry because the world is unfair. You're angry because your image of yourself is being challenged. You're angry because someone didn't acknowledge your value. You're angry because deep down, you feel the need to prove you're important. Musashi understood this trap, and so he did something radical. He killed the ego. He stopped feeding it. He didn't decorate it. He didn't protect it. He starved it until it no longer had power over him. Think about how rare that is. Most people spend their entire lives reinforcing their identity, curating their image, defending their name, gathering compliments, chasing approval. They armor themselves with likes, titles, brands, followers, and money. And yet, they are more fragile than ever. A single comment can shatter them. A moment of disrespect can ruin their day. Why? Because their sense of self is externally built. Musashi built nothing external. He was invisible by choice, unshakable by design. His life is proof that the path to true power is not addition but subtraction, not in becoming more but in becoming less, less attached, less reactive, less entitled. And because of that, he had more control, more presence, more influence than any man of his time. Even centuries later, we still speak his name not because he wanted to be remembered, but because he became unforgettable. Musashi didn't teach with lectures. He taught through embodiment. His life was the lesson. Every duel, every retreat into solitude, every rejection of comfort was part of the curriculum. He knew that true warriors are not built in battle, they're forged in the moments no one sees, in the quiet hours of discipline, in the sacrifices no one applauds, in the decisions that no one understands. That's why his philosophy lives on not as a manual for sword fighting, but as a blueprint for internal mastery. That's Musashi's legacy, and it can be yours too. Musashi trained himself to expect nothing. He owed the world nothing, and in return, he expected nothing from it. That's what made him untouchable. Because when you expect nothing, you are never betrayed. When you attach to nothing, nothing can be taken from you. That's how he walked through chaos like it was a garden. That's why no insult could reach him, because the place inside him that could be insulted was already gone. And yet, most people today live in chains of their own design, emotional chains. They wake up with expectations, go through their day hoping for validation, and sleep angry because the world didn't comply. They think anger is their fuel, their fire, their edge. But what they don't realize is that fire, once uncontrolled, burns down everything, including the one who lit it. Musashi knew this. That's why he trained not only his body but his mind and soul to be immune, not numb, but immune. He didn't suppress emotions, he transcended them. There's a vast difference between being emotionless and being emotionally free. One is hollow, the other is powerful. Most people try to appear cold as a defense mechanism. Musashi didn't need to appear anything because there was nothing to defend. He had no need to protect his pride, no urge to respond to mockery, no fear of appearing weak because he wasn't pretending to be strong. He simply was. This is the mistake most people make. They armor up the ego. They build walls of sarcasm, pride, aggression, just to protect that fragile identity inside. Someone disrespects them, and they explode not because they're strong, but because their sense of self is built on sand. Musashi, on the other hand, built his identity on nothing. He didn't need recognition. He didn't chase approval. He didn't try to leave a legacy. Ironically, because of that, he became a legend. It's said that Musashi would often go completely silent for days, even while surrounded by other warriors. He wasn't being rude, he was training his mind to observe, not react. This is a forgotten art in our modern world. Today, silence is uncomfortable. We fill every moment with noise, music, opinions, distractions. We've been trained to believe that reacting is necessary, that silence is weakness. But in truth, silence is the ultimate power. Because silence means control. Control over your tongue, your urges, your impulses. Musashi used silence like a sword. He cut through drama by not participating in it. He defeated enemies before swords were drawn, because his calmness rattled them more than any threat could. And it wasn't just silence. Musashi practiced something even more terrifying. He meditated on death. Every single morning, he reminded himself that he could die today, that his breath was not promised, that his name, his story, his identity could vanish in a moment. You might think that sounds dark, but to Musashi it was freeing, because when you accept death, you stop fearing life. When you no longer fear death, insults become noise. Traffic, delays, disrespect, they're nothing compared to the final curtain. Imagine walking into every situation knowing you've already made peace with the worst possible outcome. That's not apathy. That's invincibility. He once wrote, "Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world." That single sentence holds the cure to most modern misery, because most people today think too deeply of themselves. They center the universe around their feelings. Every comment becomes an attack. Every mistake becomes a wound. Every inconvenience becomes injustice. But Musashi flipped the equation. He saw himself as a shadow, a ghost, a flicker passing through a vast and powerful world. That perspective kept him grounded, kept him humble, and, most importantly, kept him in control. And this is why Musashi was feared not just for his blade, but for his void. He was unpredictable, unreadable, untouchable, not because he moved fast, but because he moved free. A man who cannot be provoked cannot be controlled. A man who has nothing to prove cannot be manipulated. That's real power. Not the kind that roars, but the kind that watches, waits, and then ends the fight before it begins. His ultimate test came in his duel against Sasaki Kojiro, one of Japan's most revered swordsmen. Kojiro was elegant, fast, and furious. His skills were unmatched, his ego enormous. On the day of their duel, Musashi arrived deliberately late, not carelessly but strategically. He wanted Kojiro angry, impatient, emotionally off balance, and it worked. Kojiro, consumed with rage, lunged with all his fury. Musashi, calm and centered, ended the duel with a single strike from a wooden sword he had carved from a boat oar. Let that sink in. He didn't even use steel, just awareness, timing, and presence. Kojiro died in rage. Musashi won in stillness.